Thank you, Mr. Chairman, very much. I apologize. We have concurrent hearings going on. And Dr. Califf, thank you for joining us and for all the work you do to protect American consumers. Each of us comes from a little different perspective. Mine is what America makes and grows America. I'm very much of a domestic production person. And so my questions to you have to do with, first of all, food and then drugs. On the food side, when I go to the supermarket now and I pick up purple plums and they're canned, and I took them home and I served them, and then I put the extras in the refrigerator. Within 4 days, they got mold on the top. And then I looked at the can, and on the back of the can, it said, product from China. I thought, oh, does China grow plums? I learned something if they do. But I was troubled by that. And it's a very well-known supermarket whose name I will not mention at the hearing. On pharmaceuticals, I am very concerned about our supply chain domestically, and served in Congress long enough to have gone through the situation where FDA took 4 years to figure out that heparin was tainted purposefully in China, and that stuff got in here, and there's a book called RX China, which I recommend to everyone who cares about this subject. It took me 2 elections to get to the truth on that. And so I'm concerned about food quality and medicine quality and what we can do better as a country regarding this. If you can't answer my question here today, here's what they are. What steps are you taking to ensure product labeling in the case of medicines and food for the American people? And how is the FDA working to track country of origin data and establish a national database for this information? One of the main ingredients of heparin is the mucus of pig intestines. We have a lot of that here in this country, and we should be making our own medicine, in my opinion. Additionally, how are you working with BARTA, the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority, to address public health vulnerabilities? And would budget cuts that may be proposed, we'll see what those in leadership on the Republican side do present us, how would those budget cuts prevent you from furthering your critical work? Thank you.
Well, those are great questions. I know we have limited time. As we've discussed already with this group, I share your concerns about offshoring of American technology and also American food. I do want to reassure you that everything coming in that's imported is held to the same standard as American standards, and there's an extensive cascaded system that starts with digital evaluation and ultimately inspection as things come into port. But there's no question it's more complicated if it's coming from other parts, and we have a lot of work to do as long as the marketplace is working the way it is, to do as much as we can to help other countries achieve the standards that are necessary. I also want to call your attention to something that I think is a really, really serious and growing problem. You mentioned heparin, which is a generic drug. We have multiple generic drug manufacturers in the U.S. who are going out of business because it's the same old story. By the time they paid the personnel costs that are standard for America, they lose money when they produce the drug. We just had a major one that went out of business, and it's causing a number of problems. So the cost is lower in other countries, and that's created a marketplace which is defeating the purpose that I know that you have. So FDA can't necessarily fix that problem. We can call attention to it, but we all need to work together to figure out what to do to make American businesses more competitive in this arena.
Well, if you look at the trends in fruits and vegetables and in medicines, I am very worried about our supply chain. And it was clear during the pandemic what happened. Our local community didn't even have ventilators that fit the wall because they were brought in from other countries. So I would just say, Mr. Chairman, there's not time now, but I would just urge us to put constructive language in the final bill this year in order to get more attention to the economics of producing in this country again. And we ought to do it.
I can tell you from FDA perspective, we would welcome it. It's just the point I want to make again is that we have our role to play, and we don't want to shirk it. We want to be held accountable for our role, but there's a much larger domestic policy issue about what we do about our supply chain.